Hey there, it's Matt here at Influence Agents. Welcome to another Whiteboard Wednesday. And this week I'm focusing on lead nurturing and lead qualification. I'm talking about progressive profiling. Now, if you work in B2B marketing, you may have already heard of this term, but what is it? So progressive profiling is the process of qualifying your leads through the information that you hold about them at each touch point in their buyer journey. Now, I'm going to walk through it step by step, and I'm going to use a simple model that many of you will be aware of going from the top to the middle to the bottom of the funnel, just a simple three-stage process. Now, I realize that prospects don't go in a linear fashion through your funnels in that way. And many of you will have many more steps of qualification that you go through. But just to demonstrate the concept, keeping it simple, I'm going to talk about these three stages of qualification and what progressive profiling does and how it plays a role in that process. Okay, so first off, you're generating a new lead. And of course, your prospects are going to have to submit a form in order to enter your database and give you all those consents that you need now, especially in Europe, to be able to communicate with them on an ongoing basis. Okay, so on that first touch point, you want to just tear down all the barriers, make it as frictionless as possible. And even before this happens, you'll have wanted to create many, many touch points, maybe with your social activity, your videos, your blog, perhaps ungated premium content as well that they would have downloaded from your site. But when they get to the point of being ready, of course, you want to generate that lead and you want to grab the consent to communicate with them. First touch point, frictionless as possible. We're just going to ask them for their first name, their last name, and their email address. And actually, I would argue, if you're really making it frictionless, actually make their last name optional. After all, the reality is we just want the consent and the ability to communicate with them. And if we're sending a personalized follow-up email, the basic level of personalization is to hail them by name when you communicate with them. So capture their first name, make that mandatory, capture their email address. That's the method of communication that we might use to follow up with them at this stage. And also important to note as well, the actual CTA, or the call to action button that you put on the form, should be action oriented. So don't have submit on there. Submitting makes it feel like they're just putting their data onto your database, their contact information, and that's a transactional thing. So if they're downloading something, put download now. And I'll talk about some of the other options, but make it action oriented. Tell them what they're going to be doing on that button. Okay, so that's the first step. Capture as little information as possible to get the basic consent and then have the mechanism to communicate with your leads. The next stage of the process, we want to capture a bit more information from them. We've earned a bit of trust. There will no doubt have been, in this gap between the top of the funnel and the middle of the funnel, some kind of communication. You might have a workflow that sends them some emails, maybe a three-step sequence that gets them to the next stage of the journey. Perhaps you've got a seminar or a webinar that you want them to attend. So the action-oriented call to action, jumping ahead slightly, is save your seat, for example. That's the action you want them to take, make it obvious. And we're asking for a bit more information. We've earned a bit more trust. We've had an extra few touch points with them, and we're within our rights to add a bit of qualification. And that's the point of progressive profiling, that it's qualifying your prospects, not just from the information perspective about the information you hold, but also, when you're asking for this information, you're actually saying to the prospect, look, you have to be bought in to take the next step with us. You have to give us a bit more information about you if you want to take this journey along. Some people will get the formophobia that I keep talking about and not want to submit this form. And if they're not ready to do that just yet, they're not a good prospect, or they're not qualified or nurtured enough to warrant being present on your database at this stage of the buyer journey. Okay, so we're asking them first name, last name, email address. Now, anything that we hold about them on the database, depending on the technology you use, HubSpot, for example, if we already know, some of this information, we don't need to ask them for it again. We can swap these fields out, simplify the form so everything slots into place and it's a bit shorter. And of course, people's reticence to complete forms comes from when they're really long, there's lots of fields, and we make it complicated for them. So the simpler we can make it, the fewer fields we're asking, the better it's going to be. We're asking for their job title now, and that's mandatory, as is their last name at this point. So we want to build on the information, and that's why it's progressive profiling after all. And we're also asking them an open-ended kind of question, a bit bigger field, so multi-line paragraph field, for example. What's your biggest marketing challenge? That might be what I ask them. It's going to be something different in your business. So it might be, what's your biggest IT challenge? It might be, what's your biggest accounting challenge? Who knows? Put it in the concept of your business and in the context of your buyer, and make it valuable information. If you can imagine you're going to be sitting in front of this prospect at some stage, and if you know their biggest challenge, you can position your solutions to meet their exact need. And that's the intent, and that's the outcome of progressive profiling. Now, lastly, the last step, and again, this will be at the bottom of the funnel. You might have other steps in your process, but this is at the bottom of the funnel. You want them to be a sales qualified lead. Now, if you've got a separate sales team or a sales rep in your organization, ask them what information they need about a prospect for them to be sales qualified. Now, your form should ask for that information. And actually, there's a balance here. So if people are reticent to give you this information and you don't generate any sales qualified leads, you might be asking a bit too much. Salespeople might be asking too much of marketing team, marketing resource in getting that information. Maybe they need to take some of the responsibility in qualifying the prospects further. Maybe a sales qualified lead actually has fewer fields, fewer information points that you need in order to get them to the point of wanting a call or a conversation. And that's what we're asking for here. We want an opportunity to talk to them about your solutions, their needs, whether there's some synergy there. So book a call is the call to action at this stage. Again, this is an example. But again, so we're asking first name, last name, email address, job title. That's all information we've asked for before. So if they've gone through this journey, and again, you're using the right tech, we can drop some of these form fields out. We're asking about their company, their phone number. We're going to call them after all, so we need that point of communication. And then we can start a multi-channel thread of communication with the prospect, of course. And their biggest marketing challenge now, in this context, is mandatory. So we really want to know what their biggest challenge is. If we're going to be sitting in front of them and positioning our solutions, selling them some sort of partnership or service or product, we want to know what their biggest challenge is, so we make sure that we address it. That's it in a nutshell. That's progressive profiling, learning more about your prospects as you move them through the buyer journey and create more touch points with them. That's Whiteboard Wednesday for this week. Look out for more Whiteboard Wednesdays, and do subscribe to my YouTube channel where you see the opportunity, and I'll see you on another video very soon. Bye-bye.